Good afternoon, everyone. It is Monday, December the 23rd, 2019. It is currently 4:03 p.m. Central Time. I'm sitting here looking at a news article, and I'm trying to decide what I should do. Should I even talk about this news article? Everything inside of me is screaming, you're wasting your time. Absolutely pointless, absolutely useless, because you're going to read this news article and everyone immediately who hears this is just going to start arguing. They're just going to start debating. They're going to miss the point and they don't really care. In fact, this reminds me of when I did the story in regards to President Trump and Christianity Today calling for his impeachment. Just created a lot of people just got mad and got upset with me. And again, I think they missed the people who got upset, missed the complete point of that episode, even though I did everything I could to stress what the point actually was. The problem with this news article, I don't even know what point I want to make other than right now when I read this news article, I'm just filled with grief. I'm just filled with sadness. I'm just filled with a little bit of righteous indignation. And I get very frustrated that the kind of news article that I have in front of me doesn't lead people to grieve. It doesn't lead people to pray and to fast and to say what can be done. It just leads people to argue about their rights. They want to turn it to an argument. And I'll try to state it this way. I have a news article here. And when I read this news article, instead of grief, being bothered, weeping, prayer and fasting, what it's going to turn to is people arguing, listen, about an inanimate object and people's rights. Now, it's a story involving human beings. But what's going to happen is we're going to forget the human beings and we're going to talk about an inanimate object and our own personal rights, our own personal freedoms. Human beings are going to be forgotten so that everyone can argue about inanimate objects and personal freedom, a personal right, a right. Let me get to the story and see if this makes some sense. This was posted today at 11:04 a.m., Monday, December the 23rd, 2019. So earlier today, I apologize for being late on this, but I haven't really known what to do. Headline: at least 28 people were wounded in 3 separate shootings across these 3 states this weekend. So let's go through this again. We're speaking of the United States of America. We are not speaking of a war zone. Here in the United States of America, at least 28 people were wounded in 3 separate shootings across these 3 states. And it occurred this weekend. While you were going about doing whatever you were doing this weekend, 28 people found themselves being shot in the United States of America. Supposedly not a war zone. Now, of course, the minute I say this, the minute I say 28 people were shot in the United States of America, immediately people are going to go, they have the right to bear arms. Don't talk to me about guns. I have the right to that gun. The gun didn't hurt anyone. Someone hurt someone. It's not the gun's fault. And everyone's going to start making arguments. Now it's going to immediately turn into arguments about guns and an argument about rights. Guns and rights. Wait, 28 people were shot. Well, forget them. I don't care about them. I mean, who cares, right? Same thing happens in a school shooting. This many people were shot in a school or at a Walmart and they were killed. Okay, fine. What? Rights and guns. Rights, but people were killed. Rights and guns, but people were killed. Well, it doesn't matter what we do. We're never going to stop people being killed. I want my rights. I want my guns. And you're like, well, could we care about the people first? But the people who get shot, the victims, they almost always get forgotten within minutes of the news reports. You watch, it's on social media. news articles, look at the comments. The people become forgotten, and it becomes an argument about guns and rights. And I don't understand why that's the approach. Like, nobody can stop. Here's the thing. I think the people who do that, it's easy to sit there and just forget about the people who were shot because it's not your family member. It's not your child. If it was your child who was killed in a school shooting, I don't think your first argument is going to be about inanimate objects, guns, and about your right to own a gun or not to own a gun. You're going to be grieving. You're going to be broken. You're going to be devastated that your child went to school to get an education, went to school and ended up dead for going to school, not out causing any trouble, not going to school. If it was your family member, if it was your wife or your husband who went to a Walmart and gets shot and killed for going to a Walmart, I think you would want to wait before we started arguing about an inanimate object and rights. Let's go through this story. All right. Across 3 states, at least 28 people were shot in 3 separate incidents over the weekend. Law enforcement agencies in all 3 incidents have not arrested or named any suspects in the separate shootings as of Monday morning. Investigators have asked witnesses and those with information or video to reach out to authorities. 13 people were shot in Chicago at a memorial party. All right. So 13 people were shot overnight while and this is the news article, and because I've kind of got a number of news articles here put together. So one major news article, and then I've got different things here going on. In Chicago, 13 people were shot overnight while attending a party to commemorate the life of a shooting victim who died earlier this year. So they're at a party commemorating the life of someone who was a shooting victim who died earlier this year. And then what happens? A shooting. 13 people were shot. The shooting happened after a dispute broke out at the party around 12:35 a.m. Sunday in the 5700 block of South May Street, police said. I'm not familiar with Chicago Street, so don't know where that's at. Shots were fired within the residence, which caused everyone to start to leave. The victims, ranging in age from 16 to 48, suffered various injuries and were transported to area hospitals for treatment. 4 victims were in critical condition Sunday, according to the Chicago Police major incident notification website. No suspect information was available, but police say 2 persons of interest were taken in for questioning. Police also arrested a man seen fleeing the area of the shooting, who has since been charged with unlawful use of a weapon by a felon, according to a Chicago Police Department press release. Police could not confirm that his arrest was in connection with the shooting. He's scheduled to appear in court on Monday. All right. Sunday afternoon, Chicago mayor admonished the violence occurring in her city. This kind of violence is simply not going to be tolerated in our city. Okay, well, all right. She urged anyone with information to come forward. 7 people were shot while waiting to get into a Baltimore lounge. Within hours of the Chicago shooting, 7 people were shot and injured as they waited to get into a lounge in downtown Baltimore. As many as 4 suspects are being sought in the shooting. All right. They talk about one man had a handgun while a second had a rifle. A total of 19 shots were fired. Those injured, ages 17 to 27, were taken to local hospitals for treatment. The car the suspects arrived in was recovered but had been set on fire. 1 person was killed and 7 others were injured in a shooting in Minnesota within hours of the other 2 shootings, police say. A 19-year-old man dies in Minnesota, in Minnesota shooting shortly after midnight Sunday morning. Police responded to a shooting at the parking lot of a Thai restaurant and banquet hall in Spring Lake Park, about 12 miles north of Minneapolis. Multiple agencies responded to the shooting and discovered victims ranging in age from 19 to 38. All right. So we have 28 total people shot, 3 shootings, 3 different states. And those were all shootings where multiple people were shot. I don't even know. I mean, obviously we could try to gather the number for all the total shootings that occurred in the United States of America in a 24-hour period. But you know what? It doesn't matter how many numbers. It doesn't matter how many people are shot. It doesn't matter how many people are killed. Basically, for some people, the attitude goes something like this. Well, our thoughts and prayers will be with the victims. Our thoughts and prayers will be with the victims. Our thoughts and prayers will be with the victims. And to be honest with you, a lot of people are getting sick and tired of hearing that. People are being shot and killed in the United States of America at times as almost as if it's a war zone. Thoughts and prayers. How about something be done? And then you'll hear, well, nothing can be done. Nothing can be done. Nothing can be done. Nothing can be done. Nothing can be. That's the go-to answer. Nothing can be done. So we're going to give thoughts and prayers. Okay. And you say that until it's your family member who ends up dead. Then you're not going to be so content with thoughts and prayers. And you're not going to be so content with, well, nothing can be done. Nothing can be done. If you lived in a neighborhood and there was a massive spike in the crime rate, home invasions, people breaking in, cars being vandalized, things being stolen from people's property, typically, what do neighbors do? Do they sit around and go, thoughts and prayers, nothing can be done? No, they typically will start major pressure on the local police department to increase patrols in the local area. And then you'll usually set up a neighborhood watch program to try to deter and detect and discover and report those committing the crime so that you can reduce the crime rate in your particular neighborhood. You don't sit back and do nothing. You sit back and do something. And if nothing can be accomplished, then you may consider moving out of said neighborhood to a safer location for your family. You don't sit there and tolerate it. Well, how many shootings have to take place? Now, I want to make this very clear. I am not saying I have a solution to the problem. I'm not saying I do. I think that there are some reasonable things that could possibly be done. I know as soon as you try to offer some reasonable things that could be done about the purchase of gun, background checks, getting rid of loopholes. Guns can be sold from individual to individual, getting rid of the, gun show loopholes where people can go to a gun show, in many cases, get a gun without a background check in certain situations. Certain of these things, you raise these and people are like, well, that's dumb. That's not going to work. That's dumb. That's not going to work. Well, you can sit there and just say nothing's going to work while people keep dying, or you can say, well, we got to try something. We got to try something. And again, I don't know if there's a solution. I think we have a cultural issue going on. We have a cultural problem going on. We are in a relativistic society. People are being raised to believe, and I know when you say this, lost people and atheists lose their mind, but that's okay. People are being raised that, hey, you're nothing more than an evolved animal, and you're an evolved animal. Morality is relativistic. You do what is right in your own eyes. You're going to get an increase of all kinds of behavior that is abhorrent to society. Because there's no transcendent morality to say that something you're doing is wrong. You don't have any reason to believe life is sacred or the sanctity of life because you're just an evolved animal. These things have consequences. Now, I'm not saying we run into the public schools and turn them into churches. Not saying that. Don't believe the public school should do the job of the church. The church should do the church's job. But what I'm saying is, as society changes, there are consequences. Now, the church needs to do a better job of doing what we're supposed to do. And the culture at large has to look at what is going on within culture. Now, yes, there's a gun element to it. There's no question about it. Yes, I do understand the Constitution, as interpreted by the Supreme Court, currently enables an individual to possess a firearm. They have the right to bear arms as an individual, not just to form a well-armed militia or a well-regulated militia, but to be individuals can be armed. The Supreme Court has upheld that interpretation, and as currently that is the law of the land, and I understand that. I'm not saying that to just overthrow that is going to fix everything, because there are so many guns in the hands of so many people in the United States of America. We can never get rid of all of them. So what I want everyone to consider is that human beings are getting shot. Human beings die. And no, this is not one of those. There's 28 people shot. It sounds like all of them were wounded. I don't think there were any fatalities, as far as I know, which I'm glad no one died. these people were going about their normal situations and shootings occurred. Now, how early in 2020 will it be before we have another mass shooting? School, department store. And what will be the response? What will be the reaction? I guess I want to say this. As Christians, now I'm going to go from the Christian perspective here, okay? If you're not a Christian, I'm not speaking to you. For Christians, what we claim is that one of the most valuable thing on this planet is the human soul. And when individuals die, they enter into heaven or into hell. And we should be mortified, shocked, horrified that we live in a society where shootings are becoming, we can look at the statistics. How many shootings? It's insane. Some other countries look at us and just kind of shake their head going, all you people do in America know how to shoot each other. We should say, wait a minute, we don't want people to die, because if they die, they enter into eternity. We do not want that to happen. And in fact, Christians run around claiming we believe in the sanctity of human life, right? That's why we are against abortion. We want to protect life. We do not want that life to be terminated or killed. Well, if we're going to be so pro-life for a life in the womb, we have to be pro-life for life outside of the womb. And we can't, as Christians, be so much, and in fact, for many Christians, they are far more concerned with their right to bear arms than they are with human life being taken. And that is not Christian. Don't sit there and pretend you're so pro-life. And then when people are being shot and there's mass shooting, you're more worried about your right to bear arms than you are about people being killed. And you say, well, no. I want the right to bear arms so I can stop this. Okay, well, you keep living your Hollywood fantasy that you're going to have a gun and you're going to be able to stop all the mass shootings, but that's not the way it typically works. Now, yes, there are shootings that are stopped by guns. Yes, I understand that. Not denying that in any way, shape, or form. What I'm trying to say is our first reaction should be human beings are being shot. Human beings creating the image of God. Their lives were taken out. They were killed. They entered into eternity. We should be broken and grieve for that first. We have to make sure our priorities are in the right place. Human life over my rights. I am by no means stating that if we give up our rights, all of a sudden it's going to resolve the problem. Murder has been going on since the time of Cain and Abel. Murder is a result of something inside our heart called our sinful nature, our depravity. That's why it occurs. Now, I sometimes am blown away by Christians who believe in the heart is desperately wicked and deceitful above all things. There is no one that doeth good, no, not one. No one seeketh after God. The heart is desperately wicked, and I believe that, but I want every one of those desperately wicked hearts and depraved people to own as many guns as they possibly can with as much ammunition as they possibly can. Sometimes you have to say, wait a minute, I believe in human depravity, totally depraved, sinful hearts. No one seeks after God. No one does good. No, not one. But I believe all of those sinful, depraved people should own firearms and weapons so that they can kill as many people as they want to. And you say, well, I don't believe they should kill people. And when you hear Christians say this, well, the only thing that will stop a bad man with a gun is a good man with a gun. Well, who's good? Your Christianity says there is not one who is good. How do you reconcile that? Well, I don't think Christians think about it. I'm just going to stress this again. And I'm going to bring this to a conclusion because I know I'm already making people mad and it's going to turn into everything, but that's okay. Sometimes these things need to be said. Let me state it this way. Here's what I would ask Christians to consider. Human life should be more valuable to you than an inanimate object or your personal rights. Human life should be more valuable to you than an inanimate object and your rights. The Bible says we should give up our rights, even if, we should give up even the right of what we eat if it offends or causes someone to stumble. Well, I think if I need to give up my right in order that other people may stop dying, I think I should be willing to do that as well, right? Because as Christians, Scripture is more important to us than the Constitution, right? The Constitution, it is not above the Scriptures for the Christian. The Scriptures are above. And Jesus has a whole completely different take on how we handle evil, violence, completely different take than the average Christian. Average Christian way. So that's the first thing. We should care about human life more than inanimate objects and rights. So make sure when you speak, you're speaking about human life first before you start arguing about guns and rights. I think that's very important. People are being shot. People are dying. Right? It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if it's a mass shooting. It doesn't matter how it occurs. People are dying. And those numbers, yes, I mean, there's those numbers at times go crazy. And I just feel that the Christian voice, for too long, the Christian voice sounds like it's the voice of the NRA. And that shouldn't be. The Christianity should not sound like we are the local affiliate for the NRA. If we start sounding like that, we're not being Christian, because the Bible does not sound like the local affiliate for the NRA. I can tell you that. Jesus saying, turn the other cheek, resist not evil. I mean, the early church's history of not fighting back and being martyred. I mean, come on. That's not the New Testament model in any way, shape, or form. Okay, gives the power of the sword to the government, not to the individual. But okay, we could get all day in that. So that's number one. Human life over inanimate objects and personal rights. I think that's a good place to go. And I think we have to consider that. Number two, don't forget your theology when arguing about inanimate rights and personal rights. Human life is a priority over inanimate objects and personal rights. Don't forget your theology for inanimate objects and personal rights. Your theology as a Christian is human beings are totally depraved. Their heart is desperately wicked. It is deceitful above all things. There is no one that doeth good. There is no one that seeketh after God. We are all gone astray. We all do what is right in our own eyes. We're all sinful beings. You can't have that as the major foundational point of your theology and then be the biggest supporter of placing guns in the hands of those same depraved people. But guess what? Many Christians are. And I'm gonna make a lot of people mad. Many Christians are far more committed to the Constitution than they are to the Scriptures. Oh boy, I should not have said that. I shouldn't have said that, but I did. My allegiance is to the Scriptures. My allegiance is to the theology that the Scriptures teach. My allegiance is not to the Constitution. And listen to me. Before everyone starts screaming at me and saying you're not patriotic and you don't love your country, you better back off before you say that. I served my country for 19 years wearing a uniform until I had to be medically retired because of some anthrax almost killing me. And now I'm a 100% disabled vet. So I gave my entire adult life to serving this country wearing the uniform of the United States Air Force. So don't sit there and attack me as saying you're not patriotic and you don't love your country. No, I'm trying to be consistent. I'm a Christian. My allegiance is first and foremost to Jesus Christ. My allegiance is to what the Scriptures teach, not to the Constitution. Now, I wore that uniform. I took an oath to defend and uphold the Constitution, and I did my part wearing that uniform as being a part of the force that defends it. I was medical, so obviously I was in a non-combatant situation in most situations. Now, at one time I did carry a gun as security forces, okay, but my primary focus was medical. That's why I came into the military in the medical, because I'm very much have some major problems with some of the wars that we have been in. I strongly believe in the Augustinian view of just war theory. I could get into all of that. So I am not saying I hate the Constitution. I'm not saying down with the United States of America. I'm not saying burn the Constitution and burn the flag. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying that I'm a Christian. My theology says people are totally depraved. I got to think how that works when it comes to wanting everyone to own a gun. You have to consider that. And the fact that we have so many shootings in the United States of America and so many people being killed by guns. You say, well, guns don't kill people. People kill people. I understand. But they're using guns, okay? So that's at least a part of the conversation. I'll stop right there. I know I probably shouldn't even have touched this news story. I should have. It's nothing but pure controversy, but I always will address these stories at different times. The only good thing, it's 28 people who were wounded, not 28 people who were killed. This time. Typically in Chicago, once the summer months of 2020 rolls around, the shootings start going through the roof. Maybe 2020 will be different. Maybe 2020 we have no mass shootings. Maybe 2020 no school shootings. Wouldn't that be wonderful? That would be great for me. And again, I am not saying that. Please note, I am not saying, and I have not called for in this episode to remove the Second Amendment. I have not said that. To overthrow the Second Amendment. I have not said that. I have not called for confiscating people's guns. I have not stated that. I have tried to challenge Christians to look at human life over inanimate objects and personal rights, and to remember your theology over inanimate objects and personal rights. I think I've made it very clear what I'm trying to say. I am not attacking people who own guns. I don't own a gun. I'm not attacking people who do. I've said it so many times. If I owned a gun and someone broke into my house, I know what I would probably do. I would probably unload the gun on that individual and kill them. I am not saying that if I did so, it would be right, because I'd be taking a human life and I would be killing them and I would be sending them into eternity. And most likely, there's a very high probability if they're breaking into my house, there's a high probability they're not a Christian. And the percentage will be that person that when I put the bullet in them, I just sent them into an eternity separated from God, where they're going to suffer and burn for all eternity. That's my theology. My theology then leads me to go, I don't know if I want to be the person to send someone to a Christless eternity. Since I am a Christian, if they take my life, I get to go to heaven. You see, how does that theology play out in real everyday life? I don't know. I know the reality is if I have a gun, I'm not going to worry about my theology at that moment. I'm going to protect my life because as much as we say we want to go to heaven, we really don't. And I'm probably going to kill someone. Now, I would do it. And if I did it, the difference is I'm not going to try to justify it or pretend that what I did is right. I'm going to say, I don't know if what I did was right. I was in the military. If I was in a situation where I had to take up arms to fight in a war, depending on the war, there's some wars I don't believe reach the just war theory that requires a certain level to justify the war. I think some of our wars have not reached that level, and I call them into question. I called into question the war in Iraq. I called that war into question big time. I did not believe they had weapons of mass destruction, and guess what? They didn't. And I was supposed to be sent to that war, and I was opposed to it. And I had to be very careful when I voiced my opposition. It's just a matter of trying. It's what I'm calling for Christians to do is to try to think these things through with your theology being the driving force, not your politic, but your theology, not your political affiliation, but your theology. All right, I'll stop right there. All right, thank you for listening. You can email me all of your complaints and frustrations and anger and all the, oh man, so many people are going to be mad at me. newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. and I'll be more than happy to, I don't know if I will engage. I will read. I don't know if I will engage, because usually with this subject, engagement on this topic rarely leads someone to go, man, you're right. I don't know how to work this out. I'm with you. I don't know how to work this out. Like, I've got this theology. I've got a country that says I have the right to bear arms. I've got all these people being shot. Okay, what's my human life over inanimate object and personal rights. Okay, that's a principle. Okay, theology. Okay, I believe in depravity over inanimate. I'm with you. I'm trying to struggle and figure these out. I'm not claiming to have an answer. I'm not calling for anyone to take your guns. I'm saying that we as Christians, we should be thinking about this in a far different way than the world does. If I'm listening to AM talk radio and there's someone, Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levine, Glenn Beck, anyone just out there spouting conservative talking points, Sean Hannity, any of those individuals, we should go, well, wait a minute, time out. We've got a different perspective here. We've got to look at this from a biblical, theological perspective, which raises some questions that you're not. And what I hear many Christians is they forget the theological perspective, the doctrinal, the biblical, the Christian. They're just speaking politic. They're just speaking constitution. And they should be speaking scripture. All right. Email me, newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. God bless.